Okay, so if everyone's ready, we will do share screen. And let's see. Here we go. Okay. So I'm on the wrong one. Here we go. On the wrong one. And now let's see. Here we go. This is our Parsha. This is our Parsha. So on this part, we're going to try to first struggle with Rashi, who almost doesn't answer our second question, but he certainly answers our first question. So here are the verses. Because of that, you remember last year, right? My to tell you why they're mentioning that. And so the question, is it in order, not in order? When did this? And the Ramban, last year we discussed it late. Very comfortable with this all being in order. And this is just the expansion of the detail now that was given generally earlier. The BeHar Bnei Israel, speak to the children of Israel, v'amarta lehem, ki tavo el haaretz, when you come to the land, asher ani noten lachem, that I give to you, v'shavta haaretz, Shabbat LaShem. So here again is the term Shabbat Shem. So the land will rest, right? The land will have a Shabbos, Shabbat of Hashem. There's all the recording here, the translator. So one more thing, Shesh Shanim Tizra Sadcha, 6 years you shall sow your field, right? Plant. Shesh Shanim Tizmor Karmecha, prune and you'll gather. So these are the things that aren't allowed. The Shemitah, Shana Shvi'it, Shabbat Shabbaton Yeh La'aretz. So we know the term Shabbat Shabbaton Yeh La'aretz. One more time, Shabbat LaShem. So fine. So we can stop here. So I'm open. If anyone wants to tell us now what they think Shabbat LaShem means, what does Shabbat LaShem mean? Or should we go straight to Rashi? Here we go. So Rashi, Shabbat LaShem, this means LaShem Hashem. So look at it for a second in Hebrew. Shabbat LaShem, LaShem Hashem. So what does LaShem Hashem mean? What does LaShem Hashem mean? So to strengthen the question, isn't everything LaShem Hashem? And we do everything LaShem. What does LaShem Hashem mean? Okay, so Rashi gives a stab at this. Again, based on Midrash. This means a rest in honor of Hashem. So LaShem Hashem there's the kavana that this Shabbos will be in honor of Hashem. So for example, you might say, so it's not for me to relax and take naps, but maybe it's for me to take a nap so that I can then study more or something like that, so that it can focus my spiritual life. Since these words are used in the case of the weekly Sabbath, so they're also used here. They're also used here, right? Just like we tie them to creation. So Shabbat, Shabbaton, Yeh La'aretz, the farmer who does not farm for that 7th year, LaShem Hashem, in honor of Hashem, gets that focus, that spiritual focus. So we have to expand Rashi a little bit, so there's a Chizkuni, which I thought I had here, and a Sforno that basically deal with Rashi. Rashi, so Shabbat LaShem in the Chizkuni, 13th century, Rashi understands these words as meaning a Sabbath in honor of Hashem's name, my name. What he means is that you are not to understand this law as designed to teach you how to farm efficiently by giving the land a breather every 7 years, but you are demonstrating that you're observing the Lord's commandment. So not to go too long on this, but I've heard teachers talk about that in Israel, they subsidize grapes. So if you let your grapes go fallow, you get a subsidy. So if you would pick the Shemitah year as the year you filed for that subsidy, according to the Chizkuni and according to Rashi, that wouldn't be proper, right? That wouldn't be proper. Now there's a
question.
Yes, go ahead.
Don't environmentalists tell us that it's environmentally sound practice to not to farm? That is that accidental, or is that part of God's? If that's true, isn't that part of God's plan? If indeed it helps fertility, then
so here, look what he. But so I want to pick a point soon that melds those two. But sticking to the Chizkuni verbatim, look what he said. That you are not to understand this law as designed to teach you how to farm efficiently by giving the land a breather every 7 years. So I'm accepting your fact, accepting that it is practice of farmers. And what does the Chizkuni say? LaShem Hashem says, don't do that on Shemitah. You want to rotate your crops, do it on another year and add Shemitah to the hopper. You, having read that, do you agree with that, Jeff? I don't.
Well, why can't there be consistency? Why can't it be both?
Okay, no. But do you agree with me in the reading of Chizkuni?
Yeah. The intent should not be there.
Okay. So now Jeff's raising another point. Is there a middle ground? Can we associate an idea of the Shemitah beyond this topic of LaShem Hashem? So hold that thought. We're still not struggling. We're still studying Rashi. Now let's find the Sforno, 16th century, who also talks to Rashi. And I thought I had all of these pre-selected, but I guess once you close your computer, all bets are off, I guess. And the Sforno, wonder.
It's according to alphabetical order, so you have to go to the verse where the Sforno comments.
So maybe he doesn't do it on Pasuk Bet. Maybe he does it on Daled, where it also says Shabbat LaShem. Thank you for thinking of that. No, here it is. So here it is. I thank you, Rabbi Goldman. So it was here somehow. Maybe it moved up top. No, I don't know. Okay, Shabbat LaShem. Jeff, take a look at this one. So that during this whole year, the farmer, instead of serving the soil, which requires cultivation, will turn his efforts to serving Hashem directly instead, because he has more time. That's what he's saying. Just as the weekly Sabbath is a day set aside for intensive service of the Lord, so the Shemitah year is to serve the same purpose. So here he's trying to read LaShem Hashem. He's trying to read in Rashi that both Shabbos and Shemitah, by breaking from my normal farming, by breaking every 7 days from my normal work, it allows me time to stop, right? And think of spiritual things and think of serving Hashem. And that's the domain, Jeff, where we can meld some of your thoughts into the ta'amim of Shemitah. But okay, but that's what Shabbat LaShem is according to Rashi. Anyone want to give their own version? Because the Ramban is going to ask at the end of the day, the Ramban is going to say, it only says Shabbat LaShem here, and isn't everything LaShem Hashem? That's sort of what the Ramban is going to say. So it remains the challenge for us to think about why would these two events be the only place in the Torah that it says Shabbat LaShem. So now on the Ramban, it was long, and perhaps we should go to the cut and paste, because I made some breakpoints. Can everyone see this? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So here are the psukim again. And we were talking about these other things, and we did the Rashi. Okay. Here's the Ramban, now first quoting Rashi. So if anyone wants to read, we just have to stop at every break and discuss it. So I'll start the first one, and then we can, if anyone wants. But I know sometimes people are tired, so I've been trying to step up. So Shabbat unto the internal, Shabbat LaShem. This means in honor of the internal, and that is not primarily intended for man's benefit. That was in parentheses. In the same sense as this expression is used in the case of Sabbath of creation, the weekly Sabbath, it is also used then here about the fields, about the Shemitah, But now he's saying that's really not what the Midrash says that Rashi's quoting. Rashi took this as the intention of the rabbis in their interpretation for all weekly Sabbaths and also the festivals are in honor of the eternal. And yet in not one of them, the festival, the scriptures say they are Shabbat LaShem or Chag LaShem. It doesn't say. Instead, it says, it shall be a solemn rest unto you. That's probably Shabbat, Shabbaton maybe. And in the case of atonement, it says, it shall be unto you a Sabbath of solemn rest, Shabbat, Shabbaton. Okay. Just that one, Shabbat, Shabbaton. So now he goes, so that's his question on Rashi. And now he goes to the Midrash. The text of the Braita and the Torah Kohanim quoted by Rashi is as follows. A Sabbath unto the eternal, just as it says with reference to the Sabbath of creation, Shabbat Hashem, so it is said regarding the sabbatical year, a Sabbath unto the eternal. What does it mean? But the meaning of a Sabbath unto the eternal, like God stated in connection with the Sabbath of creation, is that he ceased from work. We're mimicking Hashem. How does that fold over here? How does that fold over? He ceased from work and rested, and therefore thou shalt not do any matter. It was with this reference, that idea that the sages of blessed memory said that the same expression is also stated in the case of the sabbatical year, since it is the seventh in the cycle of the years, just as the weekly Shabbat is the seventh day in the cycle of days. And the meaning thereof here is that since the seventh year is a Sabbath unto Hashem, he's going to explain more on that, we are to desist from working the land. So the pivot here that the Ramban makes, Shabbat LaShem isn't LaShem Hashem, the pivot is to the seven. The pivot is to the seven, just like Shabbat Bereshit, Sabbath of creation. We have a concept of days and stopping and mimicking and resting like Hashem. Kivo Shabbat, we transfer it. We transfer that holiness, that spiritual idea to the cycle of years. Since the seventh year, the Shabbat LaShem, we are to desist from working the land. Okay. So that's slightly different than Rashi. So let's continue in the Ramban, paragraph by paragraph. Now here in the same Midrash, Torah Kohanim mentioned above, the rabbis have roused our attention to one of the great secrets of the Torah. Normally, we would start being cautious about this, but this it relates, it's going to start challenging us to, just like we use the term Shabbat, LaShem, backwards to Shabbos, to be an article of faith, be an article of affirmation, be an article of spiritual importance to us, spiritual stimulation that works. Okay, now I'm suggesting the secret he's going to point to now. If we look backwards to Shabbos, we look forward in time to Shemitah. So hang on, hold on to your seats. I have already written in Seder Breshit, we have to do that. Never done the Ramban and Vaychulu together. We haven't done that. I've already written in Seder Breshit that the 6 days of creation represent all the days of the world. The seventh day is a Sabbath unto the eternal God, for on it will be the Sabbath to the great name, just as we have been taught. So the Ramban there teaches a secret that we're talking about all of history in those 7 days, the future, not just creation. That's one of the secrets of Vaychulu. Okay, thus, tread lightly here. Thus, the 7 days of the week allude to that which he created in the process of creation, and the 7 years of the sabbatical cycle refer to that which will occur during the creation of all the days of the world. So now, Jeff is going to ask me, well, where did the Ramban get this? Right? Right, Jeff? That's our...
Thank you.
Yeah. So this one actually falls out of a Gemara that I appended to the original notes and sent today, in which there's a statement in the Gemara that the world will exist for 6,000 years, and in the 7,000 years, it will be destroyed or be improved. We can talk about it. And all the Rishonim, all the medieval scholars, take that statement, which you have below in the notes, if we get to it, as written, except for the Rambam, who says otherwise. Okay, so, but still, you can all jump in regardless of this. How does this help me? How do I achieve Shabbat LaShem? What's the mechanism that I achieve that? So that everyone's going to have to think and answer that question. Okay. So we have been taught in a Mishnah. Now we're basically dealing, that's in the Masechet Avot, about how important the Shemitah year is. How important the Shemitah year is. And so the question is, why is it so important? Exile comes for the delaying of justice. Okay, we get that. And for the perversion of justice, we get that. And for the neglect of the year of Shemitah, the year of the rest of the Lord, right? This stringency of punishment is because, so he's giving us his view of this, and you can tell me your view of this, because whoever denies the law of sabbatical year does not acknowledge the work of creation and life in the world to come. So who wants to explain that sentence? Who wants to give a shot at that sentence?
Somebody who's Socher Shvi'it, he's basically saying, my money is more important than God's commandment.
Okay, good. That's the beginning. But tell me.
The same thing would be if I do work on Shabbat. I'm basically saying, me earning money is more important, and so I don't care about the next world. I don't care about what God said. I don't care about.
Okay, that was good. That was the negative part. Now tell me the positive part. We kind of know Shabbat, we can put ourselves into this spiritual world, Shabbat. How does keeping the Shemitah transform me, right? I understood the denial part. Now tell me the affirm part. Think about that, everyone. Does not acknowledge the work of creation, life in the world to come. In other words, the future. Let's just see. So now he's just building his case about how important Shemitah was, and there's beautiful psukim on that. So let's do it and then come back. Look, I'm on the hook to do this class, so I came up with my version of this, but I want each of you to come up with your version of this. Similarly, Yirmiyahu was stringent. And he also said exile for neglecting to send Hebrew servants to freedom in the 7th year. Now, honestly, we could get that because that's delaying of justice, perversion of justice, and lack of respect for the laws of Shemitah, right? Right? Okay. As it is said, I made a covenant with your father at the beginning of 7 years. Ye shall let go every man his brother, for in the case of a servant, the 7th year is also like a complete jubilee, right? Every 7 years, servant goes free. In the jubilee, I return to my lands, right? And the jubilee is known also at the very beginning of the Torah from Breshit, in the beginning to Vayachulu, and they were finished. That's very interesting. I didn't remember that this was in the notes. Beautiful, intimating that in the Jubilee, everything is to return to its origin, every man unto his possession and every man into his family. So here is actually, he gave us a big hint on the previous paragraph. By understanding the Shabbat LaShem of Shemitah, right? I understand that I can return to the origin, return to the purity, return to the spirituality of Breshit, the original Shabbat, the original Vayachulu. And that's why, right? That's why it's so important that in the Yovel, right, all debts are canceled, all land is returned, and we try to restore the harmony that originally created. So there's a second topic here that's very beautiful, and I thought we'd cover, and we actually have time, right? Because but I still want to give the opportunity for everyone to express their understanding of the cycle. Why are these two things Shabbat LaShem and nothing else?
Well, I'd like to offer that true faith isn't resting once a week, not to till the land every 7 years, and at the end of 49, to let everything go into its original, to also to forgive all debts. I mean, it requires an enormous leap of faith of God's rule of the world that, frankly, most of us lack, and and Israel lacked as well, since, as I understand it, there was only one Jubilee year, right, in the history of the Jewish people. Isn't that what the rabbis teach us? That they only had one of them, and they've skipped all Jubilee years since then.
Okay, good. So excellent. So here's my way of trying to say. So remember that we said the Ramban pivots to 7. The Ramban pivots to 7. Why does all of history, past and future, go in measures of 7, in leaps of 7, 7 years to the Shemitah, 7 Shemitahs are the Yovel, right? And so that concept links us to our original 7, to our original Shabbat. But now, like the Ramban said here, if the original Shabbat in purity of faith, we could turn and look backwards. Now what he's talking about here is the Shemitah allows us to look forward in faith, like you just said, to look forward in spirit and religious feelings and service to Hashem. I think that was his point here of Shabbat LaShem. So what I actually like to do now is stop the recording. I think I have to stop share in order to do that. So